Evening. My name is John Morris, KJ, Andy Bryan, Second Jay, Kathy Cole. I'm gonna call the January 8th select board meeting to order. We always start our select board meetings with the pledge of flag over there. Please rise if you can.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. It's the rules of the road for our select board meeting. We have a open mic. Typically, we allow public comment. I'll tell you if we're not allowing public comment over a certain item. If you want to speak, please approach the microphone. For the first time, tell us your name and where you live. If you do not live in Pownell, you need to get permission from the select board to speak. So if you're not from Pownell, please say so, and we'll. Thank you. First item of the agenda is account payable warrant. The AP warrant number 16, the amount of $25,443.61.
I will move that we pay AP warrant number 16 in the amount of $25,443.61.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to pay AP warrant number 16 in the amount of $25,443.61. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carried. Next item on the agenda is payroll journal 256, the amount of $11,180.39.
I will move that we pay payroll journal number 256 in the amount of $11,180.39.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to pay payroll journal number 256 in the amount of $11,180.39. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the select board minutes of December 11th, 2023, expertly taken by Mrs. Hogan. Thank you very much.
I'll move that we accept the December 11th, 2023 select board minutes as printed.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the minutes of December 11th as written. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is a presentation by Simon Thorne. Mr. Thorne,
I'm not sure if he's here yet. He said he was getting here between 6:30 and 6:45.
right? Next item on the agenda is the federal ARPA grant. Becky.
And that's just the reoccurring agenda item to keep that, at the forefront.
The value.
We are down to, I believe it was $77,000 left or 70,000, depending what might get approved at the special town meeting.
Would you?
All right,
Yeah.
reports.
No public comment, not done.
I apologize.
Okay.
Okay. So let's finish this first. So there is still $76,000. That is something that we have to consider as we think about. Future. I apologize, hold on. I apologize. I have buzzed through the agenda item. I'm so excited to get through that I've overstepped my bounds. The next item on the agenda is public comment for non-agenda items. This is an opportunity from anybody from the town of Pownell to step forward and be heard by the select board. Is there anybody from the town of Pownell who's not on the agenda that would like to be heard? Yeah. Oh.
Call 167 Lane.
Wait, the mic.
Dick Hogue. I was wondering how we're coming with the, who's gonna pay for the survey for the woodlot on Sweetser Road. Have we gotten anywhere at that?
We will at this meeting.
I do have a estimate here or from John Mann. So would you,
Maybe you could just, since I have not even mentioned it to the board, maybe you
Okay.
could just give a brief synopsis of our conversation.
okay, I received an email from John Mann. He's the surveyor that does most of our surveying, anything I've ever done. He does that surveying. And he's getting a quote for us for the Sweetser Road lot that's never been surveyed that we can find. And so we were gonna do that. I asked him for an estimate. That lot, we're also working on, getting an easement, for, no building on that property is what we're hoping for. And Royal River Conservation Trust is involved in this as well. They're helping us out. And they're even providing funds. And in this case, they're offering and would like to pay for the survey to get it done quicker than if we wait till, otherwise we'd have to wait until town meeting this year to get that money approved, and then it would be almost a year later before we would get it.
Does the board understand that? So the parcel has never been, or we've yet to find the survey for the Sweetser Road lot. In order to enter into any kind of agreement with the Royal River Land Trust in terms of the proposal set forth by the Conservation Commission, that lot needs to be surveyed. Royal River Land Trust, who is an interested party in that particular situation, has offered to pay the expense of the survey. We have in our town meeting, Article 43, which mandates that the select board may accept any gift. We need to determine at this meeting, if we decide to, whether or not we should accept this gift of the surveying money from Royal River. Becky, turn on your mic, assuming that means you want to speak.
No, I had just turned it off so I wouldn't make any background noise.
Okay, so thank you for that. So what is Mr. Mann's estimate?
12,000. 506.
Okay. Does Alan know that number? Could you please, Matt, would you step up and just say your name?
Matt Welch, Pickett Road. Dick and I serve on the Conservation Commission together, and I was just wondering if
Just received it.
Alan Stearns
Just received
knows
it
that
today.
number. Okay.
That's what I get.
So Dick, we are gonna put that under new business, and we're gonna talk about whether or not we could accept that, and so you'll have the answer at the end of our new business agenda.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Dick. Is there any other resident of the town of Pownell who would like to be stepped forward and be heard that's not already on the agenda? Could you step forward? Tell us your name and your address.
My name is Jan-Peter van Voorst van Beest, and I live on the Hallowell Road. There is an item on the agenda for the Mellet Hall Building Grounds Committee charge.
Yep.
I thought there might have been an item on the agenda, and Becky and I talked about the eventual taking on or hiring of a maintenance person for the hall. Would you like to discuss that later or now?
It's not on the agenda, so you have the floor.
Okay, well, Becky and I discussed it, and putting together the Mellet Hall Committee stuff that is going on, and the need to perform a lot of stuff that needs to be done. A couple of years ago, we established a so-called Mellet Hall carpenter. The idea was good, but it didn't work. We discussed, because Becky, being in charge of the hall and the office portion of the hall anyway, has quite a few things that have to be done that now probably are being done by the road crew as well. So we were thinking that we might be able to establish a position of maybe 15 or 20 hours a week, part-time position, of somebody who would be taking care of basic maintenance, building maintenance stuff. And that's the idea that we discussed. And if that is something that would actually become to be true, I think it has to be discussed before we have the town meeting in June.
You're absolutely right. We would have to talk about that in the select board. You're also have to be bounced around by the budget committee.
Right.
Because they would have to, so that would have to come, I think, John Peter, in the Mallet Hall Building and Grounds Committee budget presentation. But
Okay.
thank you for the heads up. So we will not be, we will not be caught by surprise.
Okay, good.
Thank you. So that will have to come in the budget presentation.
I will be there. I'll make sure that we do
very
that.
much.
Okay, thank you.
Once again, is there any resident of this town of Pownell that would like to step forward who's not on the agenda and like to be heard by this august group? Seeing none, department head reports. Department head reports can be found on the website. If you go to the department link, you can click on that link and the department head reports are found under that department link. This is a time for select board members to question any department head. That's something they may or may not have read. Andy, any questions from the department heads that are present?
I have no questions. However, I would like to say great job by the Public Works crew on their first major snowstorm of the season.
Kate, any questions from the department head?
No question.
And I have none either. Are there any presentations that the select board would like to offer at this time?
I have nothing.
Mr. Brian, none from Ms. Day and none from Mr. Morris. So, while our guests get settled, why don't we go through the special town meeting warrant approval? We've had two public hearings. Miss, would you step forward? Sure.
Jesse Peters, Allen Road. I had something to bring up during the ARPA discussion.
Okay.
I would like to investigate using some ARPA money to install a standby generator at the North Pownell Station where our radio equipment is.
Very good. So that would be something that would be in fire department budget presentation.
As an ARPA thing? Okay.
Do you have just to throw it out there, so while a estimate of what that might look like?
I haven't even begun to look.
Would you like?
Yep.
Thank you. Could you make sure that's in the minutes so that we'll. All right, special town meeting warrant approval. Thank you.
Yes, so we went through the two public hearings, made the adjustments. So, John, Andy and Kate have the drafts, but you have the one for signing. So tonight it's just approving the warrant for signing so we can get it posted for the special town meeting in 2 weeks.
Andy?
I would move that we approve the special town meeting warrant for January 22nd,
Britton?
as written.
I second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the January 22nd special town meeting at 7 o'clock Mallet Hall as written. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries with our signatures. Next item is a presentation by Mr. Simon Thorne. Assuming that's you, young man? Well, can you step forward? Thorne, I'm John Morris. This is Kate Day. The gentleman to the right is Mr. Andy O'Brien. You know Becky, and Kathy Hogue is our recording secretary.
Okay, well, thank you. So my name is Simon Thorne. I'm Senior Manager of Government Affairs with Consolidated Communications. I have a very short PowerPoint presentation behind everybody. So I was asked to come and just give a little bit of a brief overview of BEAD fundings, which is the next round of funds that will come from the federal government to expand broadband to those who don't have it. So I'm not sure who's running that. Could we go to the next? Thank you. So this is just speeds and pricing. Everything that we have is symmetrical service, so it's the same up, same down. It's free installation. Your router is part of the package. There's introductory pricing that you can see listed there, and then in the smaller print is the pricing after the first year. So I'm not going to spend a great deal of time on this unless anybody has any specific questions. So Becky, if we could go to the next slide. This is a business offering that we have, a small business offering. Comes with a static IP address. Everything is Wi-Fi 6 gateway. We offer up to 2 extenders for either Fidium at Work or the home service. This one comes with a little bit of a unique functionality. If you had a storefront, it has some different apps within the Attune app. So for example, it shows movement within the storefront. So anyways, again, I won't spend a lot of time on that. Becky, if we could go to the next slide. So this really starts to get into the nuts and bolts of the process. So the timeline is to your right of the screen, and this is governed by the Maine Connectivity Authority. We are, as you can see, they did the initial proposal, volume 1, initial proposal, volume 2, which all states had to do. That's submitted to the federal government. Federal government or the NTIA reviews them, comes back, agrees with them or asks them to change that a little bit. And then they can go out to what they're calling the sub-grantee awardee. So basically what they're doing is picking people who want to participate in the program, making sure that their credentials are accurate, and some of those credentials are listed under the sub-grantee. And then really what it will turn out to be as a reverse auction. And so if there's no, please stop me if there are questions. I'll have a tendency to ramble on, but I think we can go to the next slide as long as there are no questions. So part of this program, the federal government requires that the locations that have no connection or are unserved to be served first. So they can only use those federal dollars, that $270 million, to go to these specific locations first. Once all of those locations throughout the state have been taken care of, then they can start going into locations where there's a little bit better service. So I pulled this from a mapping system that the Maine Connectivity Authority uses. And these red dots are showing the eligible locations that could receive federal funding to get internet brought to them. So you can see it's very sparse. And the reason is, anywhere that basically has spectrum today is considered underserved. Meaning, so I'm gonna define that for us. So 100 by 100 is considered served by the Maine Connectivity Authority, the MCA. When you get below 100 by 100, but stop at 100 by 20, that's underserved. And so that is the majority of spectrum is considered underserved. So Becky, if you'd go to the next slide, that's basically showing you every location within Pownell that they consider underserved, meaning it's not what they would like to have for speed, but it's considered adequate speed, and that's at a federal level. The map prior, the red dots would show anything from 100 by 20 or less, or no connection. Any questions on that? I don't want to zip through that because it can get a little. That's a great question. So it's speed. So it's megabits per second. So typically you'll see, especially with the cable companies, even our DSL product, you've got a greater upload speed than you do. No, I'm sorry. a greater download speed than you do an upload speed. So they're saying, Spectrum is saying that they can give 100 download and 20 upload. Okay, so, but again, the Maine Connectivity Authority's standard is 100 by 100. So it's the same down, same up. Somebody,
So the prior slide, those red dots were the ones on the
right, right. So you can see it's really limited. And, you know, I think that this is a difficult conversation for some communities to have because, you know, the map shows that you have adequate service. So, which I really thought was the benefit to come here and say that in person. Because, you know, many people watch the news, they see the money that's coming in and they say, great, we're going to get better internet, but there really isn't enough money to do that everywhere. So they'll go to the locations that are really remote, really sparsely populated. Those are the ones that are really expensive. Those are the ones that, you know, ISPs there's just no business case to get to those folks first. So any other questions about that? Oh,
Are there plans in the future to upgrade your system regardless of federal funding?
that's a really good question. So we are in the middle of building out our new network within the state of Maine. We've been doing it across our footprint. I think eventually we get there. It's just a matter of time. It's very expensive to do. And when you have competition, you know, it's kind of just because you built it doesn't mean people are coming. So, you know, we've done a lot of the more densely populated areas within the state of Maine, which made sense to do. Now we'll start to fill in those pockets with BEAD money and our own money, because with it being a reverse auction, you know, you have to put money against what you're asking, and then it'll be competitive. So whoever is asking for the fewer BEAD dollars will win. So there is a scoring metric, and I've got a slide to show that, but that will only come into play if there's more bidders than one. So you know, I know that's not really a firm answer. You know, I would rather be honest than you know, tell you something different. So any other questions? Okay. Oh, sorry.
So what I'm hearing is that Fidium service is not likely to be available in the first year. Is that correct?
It would not be this year. And I don't know that it would be next year, right? So we do our plans a year in advance so that we can get material and make sure that, right? And so this year is full. Next year, we've won several grants that we will need to build. So that will take up the majority of next year in 25. So, you know, eventually we'll get to 70% of our network or more being built out with Fidium service. I just can't tell you where that is yet. I can't look at the map and say, you know, it's here.
Can you go back to the red dot? So these people who are now underserved, it's just.
Well, that's the catch-22.
No such thing as a catch-22.
Well,
So what is their recourse?
so that's the catch-22. Okay, because all of those are eligible for federal funding. So the way we understand the Maine Connectivity Authority's process is they're going to take clumps such as this and offer them up to ISPs to bid on. Right? So when I say the catch-22 is, will somebody bid? Now for us, I can't say whether we would or we wouldn't, because we don't know what else will be clumped with it. Right? Generally, the more red you see, the better off it is for federal funding, right? So, you know, I can't tell you what that would look like because I don't know what that will look like. They won't release that information until the March timeframe as to how they foresee putting these groupings together. There'll be many groupings throughout the state. It won't just be, per county. So I don't have a good answer for you there. But by definition of the federal program, they cannot give money to anything blue dots, for example. They can't give money to blue dots until all those red dots are gone.
That's what I thought as I was reading through the 48-page grant.
Right.
That was what the main thesis of the grant was.
Right.
That the-
Yeah. Yeah. So there is a possibility that something happens with bead funds. My suspicion is if somebody's going to bid on those, they're not just going to want to build to those, they'll build to the whole town.
So the question that the town would ask you, is it worth us going through seemingly endless process bidding on that grant? Should we throw our hat in the ring?
I believe that the grants need to be applied for through an ISP. I don't know that a town can do that. I haven't read that, so I'll put that caveat in there.
My understanding from reading the grant is that a town would indicate that they have seen the demographic and that there are people in town would petition for the grant to be considered. So we'd be like an interested party.
Yes, okay, so there was a grant round last year that was a thing, right? That the town could petition. You also were required to get at least a letter of support from the town to go after a grant. In this particular bead funding, they're changing that a little bit. A letter of support is great and will help with the grant application. In their scoring metric, I think it brings a 1 percentage point to the overall grant. So I think the reasoning is that some of these groupings could be large and it could be a rapid movement, right? And some of the communities are very sparse and they meet every other Sunday on the 3rd month of the 8th day of, right? So I think they're not as focused as getting the community engagement as they have been in the past. In the past, if you did not have that support from the community, it really wasn't recommended to put the grant application in.
So the reason why I ask is because as our town grows, you can see there are pockets where high speed is unavailable and growth might come in that town. And people petition the board, what is the status of high speed internet? It's hard to give them an answer if we don't know.
And it's
It's
right.
hard for us to give them. And as you know, that is a really important factor in determining location.
Yes, so it's very early in this process, right? It's too early to have definitive answers for many things, right? Once the mapping is released and we can start to take a look at it strategically, I may be able to answer the question, but here today,
Sorry, the red dots say that they do not have that service, they do not use the service.
That's a really, so that's a good question. My understanding is that it's not available to them. And it's hard to see, but there's 2 different colored reds. There's a lighter red that would show that it's unserved, meaning the speed is below 25/3. So that's 25 down, 3 up. The darker red, I believe, shows that there is absolutely no connection. Now, no map is perfect. As silly as that sounds, no map is perfect. So, this is their map. This is, I'm using it as an example for the meeting. I'm sorry. Okay.
There are parts in town where cable is not strung because the number of houses didn't warrant the infrastructure. So there are some of those, I not really haven't studied the map. I can imagine our people like that.
Sure.
My house being one of them. Your company invest in town a little bit.
Possibly. I would love to give you definitive answers. I'm we will meet next week to discuss more of the build plan. I think we will increase what we plan to build this year. But I just don't know where the rest of the state is compared to Pownell. As far, right, because again, there's competition here. Some of the areas that we may look at, there may not be competition. Spectrum isn't huge competition. Our speeds are, maybe a little better than theirs kind of thing, so. Just say that. Sorry, I. So there's just a few more slides that we can go to. So this is really kind of a high level of where we are. Publication of eligible locations will come out March 1st, theoretically. There is a challenge phase. Challenges must be made through the Maine Connectivity Authority portal. I don't know that that's truly available yet. A lot of this is really in the future, even though March isn't that far away, a lot of it's in the future. There'll be a final determination phase, basically saying, yes, this is the map, this is accurate, we're moving forward with it. And then the final BEAD locations will be published on June 1st. And then very rapidly after that, we believe we'll be able to start bid on locations because the map will be out. Building probably would not happen until 25. That's rough because I don't know, right? That's still to be determined. There is something that communities can do if they so desire. There is a speed test challenge that you could take a look at on the Maine Connectivity Authority's website, where you could challenge the fact that you're a blue dot. Right? You could take a speed test and you could prove that you're not a blue dot, which would help. I throw that out there. It's not something I really speak a lot about. It can be very hard to get a community to do that, right? It takes time. So if we could go to the next slide. This is the scoring rubric that I was talking about. So you can see the order of importance, right? This is what they believe the order of importance is. So the top one, minimal BEAD outlay. So basically the ISP brings the most money to the application. Affordability, fair labor practices, speed to deployment, local tribe coordination, digital equity. It starts to diminish as you go down through the list. And most of this is available right on their website if you've got, really any questions. And then I think the next slide, I throw this in there just because I want communities to know that we do different options for building out networks. I don't really know that this pertains to today, but it is something, we offer a partnership with the community where the community can pay for the network, they own the network. We would run it for the duration of the bond payment. Once the bond payment is completed to be paid, then you as the community could determine you wanted another ISP to run it. We take an end user fee from the people who are on the network, so there's no property tax increase. If you're not on the network, you're not paying for it. And we take that user fee and we put it against the bond payment until the bond's paid. So it's an option. I throw it out there. And then, really, if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them if they have.
Are there any towns that you know that have that option?
None in Maine. We've had, I think, 27 in New Hampshire. New Hampshire was a little bit different though, because through the legislative process, they were able to bond for networks. And so Maine is a little bit unique. I don't foresee that there's really a lot of appetite in the state of Maine for this as of yet. I think maybe potentially in the future, maybe, but again, that's way in the future. Yeah.
Now, out of the bonding, would that be the town would issue or the consolidated?
No, the town would pursue the bond. Yeah. I appreciate the time. If there are any questions that you think of, please email me. I apologize that I don't have more information. I was asked to come and I said, well, I don't have a lot of information, but I'm happy to come.
Really, really helpful.
All right.
Really, we wonder it. Having really any.
Yeah, and I hope you get the sense that it's still a bit of a process in motion and, lots of things can change. So, but if there are questions or specifics that you'd like to ask, please feel free to email me or call me and I'll answer them the best that I can with the information that I have. All right. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the impending snowstorm.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is real estate request, map 2, lot 3032. Shane, you're up. This is Shane Brady.
Allen Road. You want me to pace you guys?
Just do it Simon did, just do it sideways. That's great.
Okay.
Perfect, thank you.
If you guys have the packet. There's a little hand drawing in there, a rough idea, 8 to 10 units that I'd like to. Develop the lot into.
The lot right here is.
And I added on into the request, the lot next to it. Because most of the land on top of map 2 lot 30 is unusable because there's a bog in the middle of it.
Why is it unusable?
There's a bog that runs through the middle, and then there's no road access on the top part of it. It's still in the beginning stages because it has to get through the approval to get the ability to purchase it. Other than that, that's about it.
Anybody have any questions for Shane and his proposal? This is the beginning of when anybody would like to purchase town land, there's a procedure that has been approved by the select board and the town. And part of that is letters go out to commissions, committees, abutters, boards, the select board, but it's an open process. It's from the beginning to the end. And it's a process that the select board will follow. So letters have gone out. The board has accepted his request and will consider his request, but would like anybody from the town to have an opportunity to speak to his request. And maybe this might be a good time to ask Shane any questions you might have about his request. So why don't you step forward and just tell us who you are, so Catherine can record you.
Francis Fedrizzi, 477 Libby Road. So on your map, you're saying 8 to 10 units, and you're not gonna do any more, what's to prevent you from continuing to grow this?
Can I just ask that you stay close to the microphone because the recording won't pick you up if you're standing away. So, and Shane, when you answer, you'll have to be close to the microphone. Thanks.
What I'd like to do is just do like a trial run, see if it actually works, see if it will fit into the town's criteria. And if I ever was to grow it or change anything, I'd have to come back to planning board. So yeah, the public would be allowed to have comment on that and everything else.
So a comment for the board, I would say in your deliberations, you should consider this being completely filled with units in your decision. Thank you.
Just give us your name and address, please.
Melissa Mencher, Hollowell Road. I have a question about the total acres versus the number of units. Because where we just are building a house, there has to be a certain amount of acreage per dwelling unit.
Right.
And so I'm wondering, just if in the buildable area, what the total is versus the total buildable area versus what would be, I mean, what would require a variance, I guess is what I'm asking.
It would all fit into the state statutes, and you'd still have to follow the setback from like wetlands and
But I don't
rivers.
see state any.
The panel has their own ordinance on,
And that's what I'm asking.
It would have to be surveyed and put together. Until a survey is done, I wouldn't have an exact answer. But that would be three, I think it's 30 acres, right? And you'd have to take roads out of that, so the maximum you could probably 110 if you could use every square inch of it.
110 what?
Units, but that's, you'd have to take the bog out of the middle and you have to take setbacks, roads.
Yes, Bo Chesney, on the Lawrence Road. It's my understanding that what's really being requested of the select board right now is whether or not it should consider the sale of the property at a determined price, an offered price of the property, whether that's appropriate or not. Whether or not the applicant is able to do anything with the property, it would still have to go through planning board approval and review, is my understanding. But really the question is it appropriate that the town be selling property? And if so, is this a fair value being offered?
So some clarification, and I apologize for not speaking to the process. So the select board will take this under advisement. We may not decide tonight. But the select board can do nothing without town meeting approval. We can't sell anything without the town meeting voting on it. So this would be just setting a recommendation that it goes on the town warrant. The town people have say. We would just listen to Mr. Brady's presentation, have a conversation, talk to our lawyer, talk to maybe our planner and just see whether this fits and then see if we're gonna move that towards the town. We have a lot of different correspondence concerning this particular request that we need to look at and talk about. We can do nothing. We're just gonna either accept the proposal, which is what the real estate request procedure requires us to do, but the town meeting will have so that everybody not us.
Is there a
You need to step forward, please. Tell us your name and address.
Name's Gary Libby. I live on 953 Hollowell Road. Is there a number that's offered to the town?
From my understanding, it goes to public auction, so anything that's allowed to bid on it.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering if it comes to like a bid.
Town-
Is there any idea, a figure at all?
The assessed value right now is, well, it's 96 for one piece and 76 for another. So the town would certainly investigate.
So like lots in town now are going for 200,000. So why would you want to develop it? Why wouldn't you just put house lots for 200? Keep our town nice and the way it is now. So.
The value of real estate is beyond the purview of select board. We would absolutely go to somebody with far more expertise.
Get a
before we-
price for it?
before we set a minimum fee, absolutely,
So he wants the
right there.
two lots there on this, that's the map right there, right?
Yeah,
0232 and 030, both of them.
yeah,
What's the, oh, I see it hooks back there.
yeah, you can see the bog that runs through the middle, so that all parts basically useless without the effect of bog.
So before it does anything, the town's gonna get someone to appraise it?
If we decide to move forward with the process and the town agrees to sell a piece of town real estate at town meeting, then the select board would be charged to find a minimum sale price to set at auction. And that auction, Mr. Brady is right, that auction would be available to
For
everybody.
everyone.
Everybody.
Alright, that's, I just like. Trying to figure out this number, it obviously has to be up in the millions, not 200,000.
Yeah, come on up, please.
I'm Mary Van Milligan and I live on the Hollowell Road. I think my question is why this ever went beyond the first step. My understanding of the comprehensive plan was that was to be a guidebook, sort of, or a guide to everything that was done. We did watch the December 11th meeting when this was discussed. Numerous times, the comprehensive plan was quoted. If over 90% of the people who sent in surveys for that comprehensive plan and the meetings that were held said, do not investigate, excuse me, Shane, don't investigate mobile home parks. Don't research it. That's a pretty huge percentage. It's 9 out of 10 people. Over almost 95% have supported open land. So and one of the strategic plan goals or strategies for the goals was that we work with, having town ownership and land trust like we're trying to vote on in a couple of weeks. Our hope, my husband and my hope would be, and people we've talked to in our area, because we are abutters, would be that the Royal River Land Trust would consider doing the same thing for that land. We know the land, some of it, the part that's closest to us. We can tell you that it is not just future lumber money for the town, although that's there. It is extremely valuable wetlands, as you pointed out, fog going through it. It isn't something that is going to, just putting even this number on there, any houses on there, any development, all the research on forest today, it's coming out all the time, is we cut one tree, that disturbs everything. So I think when we handed our comments in, there are way over 100 species of animals and birds that are supported by that habitat. And it's very disturbing. The other thing is that we don't understand the process well enough. And you've helped sort of explain that, but we don't understand, first of all, why this ever got to this point. And then secondly, why all of a sudden it's different than it was for the December 11th vote when we had a decision that night. If we're getting a presentation, then are you opening it up to more public comment before you decide to go to a town vote with this? And that's definitely a concern. I think the process would be the last concern that I have. I'm questioning because I don't understand why it ever went to this step. And then secondly, okay, all right.
Request was made to purchase town land. That triggers a process that's dictated by real estate purchase proposal for town land. That's part of the town municipal government. So Mr. Brady asked, the select board is required to proceed. So anybody could ask to purchase town land. We do the exact same thing. Does that?
Okay. I guess when I read that, and also in talking to Becky, my understanding was that you weigh whether it should go to beyond the first step.
We do not have the authority to do that.
Mm.
Someone asked, we respond. It would be unfair if we decided ad hoc, just no, we don't like that particular request.
Well,
We require public comment from butters like yourself, committees, from anybody in the town who'd like to weigh in. So that hopefully answers that question.
right. Okay. And then if are having a presentation with more information, are you opening it up for more public comment before you decide?
Anybody asked to purchase land, we offer them an opportunity to educate the butters, the committees, what their intent is do. I mean,
Mhm.
I think that's only part of having a transparent municipal government. Shane is here not because he's required. Shane is here to present his options or his plan so that people can hear it. And I'm glad you brought up the comprehensive plan. Because also in the comprehensive plan is the idea that affordable housing is very important to the town of Pownell. So part of the, I mean, we can read whatever we want to in the comprehensive plan, but Shane's proposal is not out of character, part of that plan.
But if all of the list of the possible ways to have affordable housing were looked at, that one was not something that was, except for 5% of the people, was something that was looked at as favorably. Thank you, thank you.
Can I just comment on?
Oh,
the
sure,
second
sure.
part of that?
Thank you.
Everything I'm asking for is in the town ordinances. There's 2 lots approved in town for mobile park. This one, lot 2, map 30, and the other one's map 9, lot 43. So it's nothing out of the character.
Thank you, Shane.
Thank
Good
you.
explanation. Any other? Please step forward.
Will the reports from the town departments be available to the public?
Everything that happens in the town is available to the public. You need to go to the town office and request it.
So those are available today, if asked? Thank you.
Actually, excuse my, right there. So you can read them now, you can read them after. Marcia, please step forward.
Marcia Bowen, Royal Road and Planning Board. Now I'm more confused than before because I thought there were 2 properties, town-owned properties that we reviewed for a possible sale. And I thought that the select board had decided not to take that to the town meeting in June to be voted on. I thought we had decided that they would not be.
That was not these 2 properties.
Okay,
These are
this is a different property.
These are different.
Okay, so it's still Poland Range Road, but and it's town, oh, okay, so I understand. So this is all new, got it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, there's a better picture up on the board.
okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions for Shane or for the board?
I just quickly, actually, segue off of what she said, I am Dan St. Poland Range Road. The 2 other properties that are not going to town vote, what were those properties in reference to? That she was just talking about.
Could you ask that question again? I didn't quite.
So you had said there were 2 other properties, right? Right.
That was property, thank you, I just didn't understand.
Yeah, no worries.
That was property on the Elmwood.
Okay, was it for a similar development like this?
There was no presentation, but I think it was probably for a similar.
Yeah, it was similar. I applied for both of them in town.
Okay. All right, so this is a repeat, but just different property. Right, but same idea.
A lot smaller scale.
Right.
Because there's not as much usable acreage, and with the wetlands, it makes it hard to develop this piece.
Okay. So was there a reason why the board decided not to bring them to town? Both those properties on Elmwood?
I think we debated that particular issue, and that issue was resolved because of current negotiations that have been facilitated by the Conservation Commission to preserve the property on the Elmwood Road in collaboration with the Royal River Land Trust. And that's a particular issue that is being the legal format is being written as we speak and will come up at the next town meeting. Okay. So that the board, I think, and please correct me if I'm wrong, decided to proceed with the Conservation Commission's recommendation to enter into a conservation easement on that particular piece of land. And could that same fate befall these properties? That would be up to the Conservation Commission to make a proposal. Is there anyone here from the Conservation Commission? Okay. Just trying to.
Matt Welch, I'm the chair of the Conservation Commission, and that is one of our long-term goals is to protect all the town forests. So that everyone has open space and recreation opportunities moving forward.
So that is why we have a real estate request procedure, so that other committees can present to the select board their visions and thoughts. Town has quite a bit of town land. There's a lot to manage. Right, I don't see that we actually need to sell it, right, I think we're doing okay. But I appreciate you have the right to do what you want to do, so, or at least request it, right? So for this particular development, what are like the road requirements or public water sewer requirements? Are there certain things that our ordinances dictate that type of development would require?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Article 604 in the town ordinance. It's like 10 pages long and it lists everything out.
Okay, so that the land use ordinance is available online or in the office. You could read. There are quite rigorous requirements. Right, okay. And I would assume if there was a road or several roads developed off of Poland Range Road, would those have to be town approved and town maintained?
No, they'd be privately maintained and then it would still all have to go to planning board before anything could get done.
Okay. And would all those units or lots or however it gets subdivided, if it gets to that point, would it be all individual wells and septic, or how would that work?
That's what I let the architects and planners figure out. You just give them a piece of land, they survey it, do all the soil samples, and come back with the best use for the project.
Okay. Yeah, I'm wondering just like the costs, right? Because I think the only public water in this town goes to like the church and here, right? That's it. And the fire station, right? Okay, well, right. But we don't know for sure if there's an ordinance that requires it to be on public water. Do you know that?
It's not required on public water because public water you need under a quarter of an acre or quarter acre lots.
Okay. So those are good questions.
Yep.
If there are there any other people that would like to be heard, ask questions of Mr. Brady or the board? Go for it.
Bob Van Milligan, Hollowell Road. My concern, Matthew just mentioned that the Conservation Commission is looking at those lots to set aside someday and perhaps getting Royal River Land Trust to have a cooperative agreement in managing them. But my concern is if we start building on those lots, we've lost that opportunity. And I just want to register that as a comment that this is a really valuable thing, and intruding into that area and putting a development is really going to degrade the quality of a deep forest. Many of those 100 and some species of birds that we've seen coming out of that area require deep forests, not fragmented areas. And I just think we're at risk of losing a lot if we go forward with a plan like this.
You all set?
So the town had an ordinance like put in a trailer park, like is the lots allowed to be smaller or it's still the same? That they need a full foundation and they have to have 2 acres, 300 feet of road. I've never seen the town had a thing where you are allowed to years ago, you could put trailers on like certain roads, but they still had to have a foundation. That's why no one did them, because it's still so expensive and they still needed the 300 feet of road from them, so. Obviously, we don't have a trailer park in Pownell, so what do they have to be for a size of a lot?
That would be, so. The select board does not deal with subdivision petitions. That is the purview of planning boards. So that would be a question for the planning board. I would be speaking at a turn, give you my interpretation. But all the land use ordinances are available to all citizens. They're online or they're available in printed form. Rest assured, there are ordinances that control that type of development. I would just not be, I'd be the wrong person. No. I can only know so much.
I know across, sometimes the town doesn't click perfect.
Oh, now those are fighting words.
Well, they did it, the planning board did a good job across the street from my house. The houses were all supposed to come off a certain road. And then the building inspector left to put the drawings in off the road where they weren't supposed to. So that's, to me, that's a pretty big mess up, so.
Mistakes happen.
I just wondering.
Mistakes happen. You're right, Gary. Yes, Shane, go ahead.
I know it's kind of putting the cart before the horse.
Can we just be respectful here? Please. Gary. Thanks. Go ahead, Shane.
I know it's kind of putting the cart before the horse, but there is like a state agency that you gotta register with. And they do inspections every year, and then you gotta renew your license every, I think it's 3 or 5 years to be able to keep it and maintain it.
Is there anything else you'd like to say before we bring this to a close?
I think that's pretty much it.
Well, thank you for being open and transparent in the presentation. So I'm going to say that I need more time to go through some of looking at that folder, and I think I haven't seen all that. So it's been my mistake not to venture forth. I'm going to ask if the board would entertain tabling this until next meeting.
Well, I too just got a bunch of those today via email, so I would like to move that we table this until we further investigate the comment forms.
A second.
Okay, so we don't need to vote on that. We'll table it. So by tabling this, let me tell you how we'll proceed. So the select board will have an opportunity to view all the petitions and recommendations from different boards and different committees. Next meeting, which is
January 22nd.
January 22nd, we will have a discussion about Mr. Brady's proposal and come to some kind of consensus of which way we're going to go. At that point in time, if it goes forward, then it'll be put on. Go ahead.
The June town meeting, the annual town
Put it
meeting.
on June town meeting as a warrant item, which the town people will vote on whether or not to recommend to agree to sell that property. If that were to move forward from there, then there are other procedures that the town would have to go through. We'd have to hire a real estate appraisal, would have to put it up to auction, we'd have to get legal advice. So there are a lot of steps in this process, but right now we've tabled this. We'll talk about whether we're going to move forward next meeting. So if you're interested, please come. But at this point in time, public comment is over for this particular item.
And January 22nd is the night of the special town meeting as well.
Correct. So it's a lot to be.
Can you just clarify the times of the meetings on January 22nd?
Regular select board meeting at 6:30, special town meeting at, 7 PM, unless the select board meeting is running a little bit long.
Thank you.
Yes.
And now we'll be here.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Next item on the agenda is Mallet Hall Building and Grounds Committee charge. So the only change that we have is, we have two changes. We have a change in the term of office, which is now a one-year term, and we have a change. We have an addition that the chair will meet with the town administrator monthly to discuss any upgrades, repairs, or. So now, as we look at the charges, remember, we're trying to mobilize the Mallet Hall Building and Grounds Committee to look at Mallet Hall in the future. And to understand that change is going to happen, their involvement in the town's investment in this building is going to require a different type of commitment. It's no longer just maintenance, it's visionary in nature. Do we feel like the charge indicates that we're asking the Mallet Hall Building and Grounds Committee to participate in future planning and vision? Andy?
I believe so. In the third section of future planning, it pretty much covers that.
The committee may at times work with other committees for forward-thinking ideas for the future. And a list of different committees. Day?
Yes, I think it seems to cover all of that.
Excellent. So then I would move that we adopt the Mallet Hall Building Grounds Committee's charge with corrections.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to adopt the Mallet Hall Building and Grounds Committee charge. Is there any further discussion? Is there any question from the public about what we're doing here? We're just directing the Mallet Hall Building and Grounds Committee. Seeing none, all in favor? So moved. Next item on the agenda is we have some appointments to make. Register of Voters, Deputy Register of Voter Oath. So I will move that we fill the Register of Voters by appointing Rebecca Taylor Chase. The appointment will start January 1st, 2024, will end December 30th, 2025.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to appoint Rebecca Taylor Chase for the position of Register of Voters. Is there any further discussion?
Just for clarification, it's state statute that it's a 2-year appointment and it's appointed starting in the even years, ending December 31st in the odd year, 2 years later, just so everybody's aware.
Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you, Becky, for doing that. Next appointment is position to be filled Deputy Register of Voters. This person to be appointed is Pascal DeSole. Date of appointment, January 1st, 2024. Date expires December 30th, 2025. I will move that we appoint Pascal DeSole for the position of Deputy Register of Voters, position to begin January 1st, 2024. Position to expire December 30th. Hope that's not Pascal, 2025.
I'll second the motion.
Seconded, is there any discussion? All in favor? Thank you, Pascal. Next item on the agenda is Town Fund Investment Policy. Mr. Nichols, you're up.
Chesney.
I guess I'm speaking for my wife. Yeah, that would be Bo Chesney for.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I apologize. I am off my game today.
That's okay. I've been called worse.
Sorry, Bo.
That's okay. Yeah, this is, I hope you have copies of it. Okay, this was put together in response to an initiative where some questions came up with respect to the town's funds and were they being invested to earn as much interest as possible under the circumstances. And we found that we didn't have a policy for doing that. So I put together a policy with Becky's input, and she had done the research from other towns' policies, and I kind of boiled them down and picked and through them to come up with the proposed policy. Essentially, by law, you and the treasurer have the authority to make investments, and this just lays out a process for doing that. Provide some guardrails, some reporting requirements, but trying not to be too onerous in the process. So any questions on the?
I read through all the other towns' policies and what Bo has written here, and this really picks the best of the other towns' policies and in my mind, the best of the other towns' policies, and is not so restrictive that every time we invest a penny, it has to go before town meeting.
Well, just to be clear, this is a town policy that can be adopted by the select board and changed by the select board, and does not require town meeting vote in order to transfer, I suppose abscond with, funds. It's a guide, so it's a lighthouse for the town to invest, surplus money or, what's the other word?
CIP.
CIP.
Yeah, capital projects monies that aren't going to be spent in the immediate future.
Phrase for it. So Mr. Chesney has given us a roadmap to do that. So I'm going to suggest that, in fact, I'm going to move that the town, the select board adopt the draft town investment policy submitted by Mr. Chesney to.
And just so everyone is aware, Mr. Chesney is the chair of our budget committee as well, so has a pretty good handle on our monetary
It's a dubious
situation.
honor.
But I will second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the town of Pownell investment policy. Is there any more further discussion? Great thanks to both. Thank you for your time. Yes. All in favor? So moved.
I will get a clean copy and have it next time you stop by or for the next meeting for your signature.
Perfect.
We're on the path. Financial. Absolutely. You want to be Mr. Chesney?
Just so people know, we have been investing funds. It has been handled in a reasonable fashion. This really provides the framework and formalizes that. So that as changes in personnel and select board or treasurer or whoever, it provides some continuity and gives a roadmap for folks. So I didn't want to leave anyone with the impression that the town has not been acting appropriately with the funds that are entrusted to it.
Reaffirming. Okay, next item on the agenda is the FEMA flood hazard determination. We have before us a recommendation from the Federal Emergency Management Agency. In their infinite wisdom, they have told us that our time of appeal for flood hazard maps and insurance has expired, and we have lost our opportunity to contest any determination, but still need to approve their determination in order to be eligible for federal flood insurance money. This needs to be approved by the select board and then moved on to the planning board. Is there any question from the board about what we're doing here? So occasionally FEMA looks at incidences that have happened based on evidence provided by our road commissioner and public safety officer and make corrections to our flood map. So I'm going to move that we accept FEMA's recommendations for corrections to the flood map. Also recommend we send this approval letter, or I guess it's we forward this regulatory letter to the planning board with its corrections and amendments.
I will second that motion.
Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Oh, we have a question from the floor.
Yeah, please step forward, my dear.
Marcy Bowen. The deadline for getting the ordinance passed is before our annual town meeting, so I'm a little concerned about getting the ordinance completed because otherwise, apparently we lose our FEMA fund, insurance funding.
An email came at 2:00 this afternoon stating that we had to pass an ordinance before June 20th and our town meeting is June 24th.
We already have an ordinance. We just need to include the corrections.
Okay.
There are some instances.
They recommend that we just take their ordinance and put it in completely rather than cut and
Can't
paste.
do that.
Yeah.
Just relocate. I understand your call to urgency, but we won't lose our funding because we'll appeal this to the end of the year. Okay, next item on the agenda is volunteer form. You just pronounce that name, please.
Tyler Fiegels.
Tyler Fiegel asked to be appointed to the Mallet Hall Buildings and Ground Committee. Andy?
I would move that we appoint Kyla Fiegels to the Mallet Hall Building and Grounds Committee.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to appoint Kyler Fiegels to the Mallet Hall Buildings and Ground Committee. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? So moved. Next item on the agenda is the discussion on whether or not to accept the offer of the Royal River Land Trust to pay for surveying the town lot. Wish I knew what the lot number was, but the town lot on the Elmwood Road. Do you happen to know what the lot number is? The Sweetser Road. Sweetser Road, I'm sorry. I don't know offhand.
Map 4 lot 20.
Map 4 lot 20. Now, we do have the authority that is given to us every year when we ask the town whether or not the select board can accept gifts other than the ones that are listed under the town meeting form. This would come under that, with Article 43.
Since they are unaware of the $12,560 price tag on this survey, should we table this until our next meeting, until they're advised and see if the offer still stands?
I would be interested to know if the offer is dependent upon easement or not.
All good questions.
Then I would recommend tabling it, sending it back by Mr. Chesney.
Just procedural question, if the town accepts the gift, with the idea that then the process can go forward to get it, surveyed ahead of the town meeting. Does the town, don't the voters still need to authorize the expenditure?
Not if there's no expenditure.
Okay, well, what's being, we just need to make sure that any vote accepts the gift for them to pay directly rather than a gift to the town. Okay, I just.
But they ought to know the price tag before they.
Susan Peters, Allen Road. This is for a June vote, is that correct? For this property?
Hopefully we can dot the i's, cross the t's, yes.
Okay.
That's the proposal.
My initial thought is if this is really ethical for Royal River to be making a donation on a project that's not legally finished yet and the town is not voted on. So I'm not sure if this is the first I've heard of it, so I've got to think it through, but I don't know that it's legal for them, excuse me, not legal, but ethical in my mind for Royal River to do that, or for the town to accept it until after a vote is made on whether or not the town wants to go forward on it.
Well, thank you. The town needs to survey the property. Question of whether we want. That's the gift. Survey the property. If we don't accept the gift, we'll have to take it out of taxation. But I'm going to accept Andy's recommendation and pass it back to Matt that you perhaps let Royal River Land Trust know how much it is and make sure there's no quid pro quo attached to accepting. Okay, I understand. We will. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Dick. Did that answer your question? You started the ball. Yes, yes. Thank you. Is there any other new business? Becky?
No.
Is there any old business? I don't like this. Is there any correspondence?
Our correspondence at the town office was down for 10 days when the router was taken out from the storm. So we apologize if anyone tried to get in touch with us and we didn't call you back. We had literally no telephone for 10 days. So it was quiet, but it was frustrating to not be able to get back to people.
I had a few phone calls from people whose trash was not picked up. And I advised them to call Pine Tree Waste
Use the Casella app.
or use the Casella app.
So you should probably, Becky, would you just put that in a minute about the app, so that people know?
Absolutely. So Casella has designed an app for Pownell that you can download for free. With it, you can direct communicate with them. So if the truck goes by your driveway, you could instantly send them a message and it would dispatch to the truck to get the truck back. Trash pickup's Friday and the town office isn't open on Friday. So on Mondays, when I come in and I have 4 or 5 voicemails to a missed pickup, I can't get a truck back again until Friday. So that would be really good communication there. It also has the holiday schedule on there. So you would know if Christmas is falling on a Friday, when the pickup would actually be. And as we move forward with the new carts that we're going to be getting for trash, you can order replacements through them. So it's just really a means to have a little bit more direct communication and know what's going on. A day of a snowstorm, you would get a notification through that app telling you if they were pulling the trucks off the roads on that Friday, so you would know to bring your trash back in. I typically at home on Fridays, if there's a storm, log in and monitor my emails for a couple of hours in case they send me one to put a post out on, our webpage and our, Facebook page, but that doesn't always reach everybody. But I really encourage you to download the app. It doesn't cost you anything and I've tested it and it works really simply.
Any questions about the Casella? Well, I've had numerous conversations with the illustrious people of the town, mostly about the current posting of the Poland Range Road Bridge. So I just want to put this in the minutes that the Poland Range Road Bridge, the wooden bridge heading towards North Pownell, belongs to the state. The state does inspections. They inspected the abutment. The abutments were seen as decaying, and the load limit was lowered to 10 tons, which provides tactical problems for town trucks and for school buses and for fuel trucks. I wish the town had some leverage over the state, but we don't, since the state owns the bridge and inspects the bridge. So please do not call the road commissioner and voice your anger, ire, inconvenience. He understands it's more inconvenient than you'll know for the road department. They've built turnarounds with the gracious gifts of the budding landowners to allow town trucks to turn around. They have a procedure for plowing. RSU has procedure for school buses. Hopefully the fire department has developed a protocol. So I think we're all set. There's no schedule to rebuild the embankment, so it will be with us for a little while. Please bear up with the incredible resolve and patience that is exhibited often by residents of the town of Pownell. Please do not call the road. Okay? You could call him and tell him what a great job he did on roads this first. Any other business?
I have none.
Then I will move that we adjourn and thank the public for coming. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your wisdom. Anyone want to second that adjournment?
I will second.
Favor?